What's going on, everyone? JayzTwoCents here. In case you forgot, I'm even wearing my shirt. This will be available soon, don't worry. You guys have been asking me about my shirts. They're coming, I swear. Today we're gonna talk about Razer's new flagship laptop, the Razer Blade Pro 2017 edition. I've had my hands on this now for a couple of months, about 2 months actually. I used this at Computex, it rendered all of that footage, and even some videos since then that I just felt like editing at home or on the go. So anyway, huge thank you to Razer for sending this over, but yeah, let's go ahead and just get right to it. Sick and tired of all the RGB craze? Well, don't worry, because the EVGA Z270 Classified K is full of all the things that matter, like Intel Optane memory ready, U.2 NVMe SSD support, 11-phase PWM for stable overclocking, and a sleek monochromatic design that is perfect for any build. Learn more by visiting evga.com. Now, I could spend all day talking about specs and a laptop, and it's obviously a very subjective conversation too on what you need, what you don't need, what's overkill, but let's at least run down what's in here. It's got an i7-7820HK processor, so that's a quad core with hyperthreading, so 8 active threads, 2.9 gigahertz is the base clock. It will automatically turbo boost, Intel turbo boost up to 3.9 depending on the workload and temperatures. And if you turn on the performance optimized in the Synapse app, then it will go all the way up to 4.3, again, if temperatures will allow. But once you put in performance optimized, it does also increase the fan curve. That way it can keep things as cool as possible. Now for memory, we've got 32 gigabytes in this model of DDR4 2667. So that's gonna be nice and fast and keep up with your workloads. And in storage, there's 3 different versions of this. There's a 512, a 1 terabyte, and a 2 terabyte, all sporting PCI Express M.2 SSDs. So this particular model right here is the 1 terabyte. So that's 2 512 drives in a RAID 0. All 3 variants of this, the 512, the 1 terabyte, and the 2 terabyte, are sporting RAID 0 configurations. So the 512 is 2 256s in RAID 0, the 1 terabyte, 2 512s, and then the 2 terabyte obviously is 2 1 terabytes, again, all in RAID 0. So read-write on this is extremely fast. But once again, because they are M.2, keeping it cool is paramount. So yeah, the fan profiles and stuff definitely have their work cut out for them, given the amount of hardware that is shoved into this machine. And then of course for the GPU, it's got a full-size desktop GTX 1080 chip in there. Obviously it's on a full-size card in there, but it's a full-blown GPU on here. Form factor wise, it's 0.88 inches thick. It's got lots of I/O, 2 USB 3.0s on the left. It's got, again, a THX certified headphone jack. So it's gonna have a very good noise floor. It's got very good power to be able to push professional headphones, which is sometimes a problem, especially with laptops. So you can run your high ohm headphones and have no problems with it whatsoever on here. A full-size RJ45 network jack. On the right side, we got a full-size HDMI port, another USB 3.0, a Thunderbolt 3, as well as a full-size SD card reader. So that's nice, especially for content creators like me. If I want to take footage straight from the camera to the computer, I can do that. Now let's talk about the keyboard. It definitely takes a little bit of getting used to. It's gonna be a love it or hate it relationship. It's sporting a low profile mechanical keyboard. Now they're saying that this is the world's first. I can't validate that, but they are saying it's world's first. It's their chiclet keycap, which is common on their laptops, but it's got a very clicky, you can hear that? It's got a very, very clicky feel to it. It feels a lot like a Blue, but obviously with a much shorter throw, which in the beginning made it very hard for me to get used to typing on this. I could not type an email on this. The way I would normally type, I literally was having to like 2-finger type it because I just couldn't get used to the feel. But after using it for several weeks and now a couple of months, I can actually bang out writing on this with no problem. It just took a little bit of adjusting and getting used to. But something else you might also notice is this does not have a trackpad down below the spacebar, which is the more conventional place to put it. It's on the side where you typically find a number pad. So what Razer has done is they've kind of gotten rid of the number pad, which is, some people want it, a lot of people don't. But on a 17.3-inch laptop like this, it allowed them to have a massive touchpad over here that works as a trackpad. So it's touch sensitive and it does gesture. So for instance, if you were to just 2-finger touch, that's like doing a right click. And of course, if you click on the bottom left or bottom right corners, it's the same as left click, right click on a mouse. So I feel it's really sensitive. I'm accidentally touching and clicking on things when I'm just trying to move the cursor, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Something else too is it's got an actual scroll wheel for volume, which is nice to see rather than having a function key up and function key down. You got all your function keys that you expect on the F-Row, and that's enough about that. You guys kind of get the basics when it comes to the keyboard. Now let's go and talk about the screen here. This is a 17.3-inch UHD, so that's 4K, THX certified panel. They're saying this is the world's first THX certified panel in a laptop. I can't validate that, but that's what they're saying. So it's checked for things like color accuracy, resolution accuracy, smoothness of playback, and it's guaranteed to give you a very good viewing experience. Now the problem with it though, as you can see, is it's glossy. So that's gonna be a love it or hate it. Some people like glossy screens. I'm personally okay with that. It tends to make the colors pop a little bit more, make them a little bit more vibrant. But if you're in a bright environment like this, as you can see, okay, it's very, very reflective. So it's definitely one of those things that you have to ask yourself if that's gonna be okay. But something else too is it is a touch screen. So I don't know why anyone would use this, considering it doesn't flip back into a tablet, but it is actually a touch screen. And I think the last thing I would really want to be doing though, especially on this glossy screen, is be touching it. So it's a neat feature that's there, but I will never use it. And now that I've touched it, I've gotta clean it. Now speaking of dirt and mess, this chassis, although beautiful in its matte black anodized finish, is a nightmare to keep clean. If you think about touching it, finger and skin oils appear on it. If you even consider moving it, it's just going to look like a big smudged, smeary mess. And if that bothers you like me, then you definitely wanna make sure you have a rag nearby at all times. Now in terms of performance, I'm gonna start with content creation because I think that that's where this laptop would definitely shine. Now we use this laptop to render all of our footage from Computex this year, so that's how long I've had this. And it, working in the timeline, especially in Adobe Premiere, it takes advantage of all of that CPU horsepower, it takes advantage of all of that RAM, and having the full-size 1080 in there makes the GPU accelerated Mercury playback engine very, very smooth when scrubbing through the timeline. It's not stuttery whatsoever, and we can run it at 100% resolution and have no issues whatsoever. Now in terms of exporting though, it feels an awful lot like rendering on a 7700K desktop system. 1080p footage, which is what we rendered at Computex, rendered in about real time. So if it was a 10-minute video, it took about 10 minutes to render. Same thing with longer video, it took about the same amount of time to render. Of course, that's gonna depend on a lot of things on your timeline. Is there a lot of color correction? Is there any sort of resizing? Is there a lot of overlays, transparencies, transitions, things like that can all slow down render time. But in the basic type of workflow that we do on our videos, at least my videos here, this has no problems whatsoever, allowing me to stay fully functional while on the go. Now this brings me to the last part of our review, which is obviously gaming, and I think a majority of you probably care about that most. Now, as I've already said, it's a GTX 1080 and it performs very similar. In games like Rise of the Tomb Raider, you're getting 52 FPS average in 4K, but that's with all of the effects on high, including the hair effect stuff, so if you turn that off, it actually bumps up a little bit more. But if you go down to something like 1080p and turn off the G-Sync, which is built into this panel, then you can actually get well over 140 FPS in a game like Rise of the Tomb Raider. Then there's Metro Last Light, which brings it down to about the mid 40s at 4K, but it's a very demanding benchmark. It always has been, that's why I keep it in my rotation. But once you go into 1080p mode, then it definitely jumps up a whole lot higher at a very respectable frame rate. But what about acoustics? Well, unfortunately, because Razer's gone with more an aesthetic approach versus a functionality approach, they went with very small, minimalistic fan and vent design. I feel like if they just put a few more vents in there, we would have had a lot better thermals, because the 1080 in here will reach all the way up to about 83C under load. Now that's not too hot for this core. I mean, that's what the Founders Edition card is set to run at. But in order to keep the 83C, it sounds like a 747. In fact, let's go ahead and give you a demo of that now. But if you take a look at the fan design, and yeah, remember what I said about fingerprints earlier? Yeah. But if you look at the fan design, you can see it's just these two tiny little fans down here in the bottom. I feel like Razer could have done a better job at thinking about acoustics and thermals at the same time, and still maintain a minimalistic factor, or form factor. I mean, it's on the bottom. You don't even see it. In fact, even just sitting at the desktop, the GPU will idle somewhere between 50 and 53C, depending on your ambient temperature. Now, it's gonna be completely silent while doing that, but that just gives you an idea of how warm things can get. And just putting your hand near the laptop, you can feel heat coming through the keyboard. So anyway, guys, that's been my review of the 2017 revision of the Razer Blade Pro laptop, their new flagship. And it's performed all of the functions I needed to do with no problems whatsoever. We were doing gaming while at Computex. We even showed some Instagram photos. We were having a little mini LAN party at the airport when we were waiting to head over to Taiwan. And it's very powerful. And it should be for the price. I mean, it starts at $4,000 US. That is not a cheap laptop by any stretch of the imagination. Now, whether or not that's worth it, guys, only you can answer that. I can't answer for you whether or not it's worth it. Value is subjective, and it's only gonna pertain to the person considering spending the money. Only the person looking to spend the money can determine whether or not it's worth it. So that's that. It's time to go. Again, a huge thank you to Razer for sending me this laptop to take a look at. If you guys think I should look at any other laptops in the market, make sure to let me know down in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter at JayzTwoCents. It's without a doubt the easiest way to get a hold of me. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I will see you in the next one.